when you have this distributed work environment, you want to make sure that you have a good relationship with each leader, which then can cascade down to the people that report to them. And it takes a lot of focus to make sure you maintain those. But if you do that, you get all the benefits of having a remote work environment without the same kind of detriment of never being able to build personal relationships.
Welcome to the Great Talent, Great Business Podcast, your go-to resource for building exceptional teams and thriving businesses. Each episode delivers actionable insights on harnessing offshore talent, integrating innovative technology, cultivating a vibrant company culture, and attracting and retaining top performers. Subscribe now to never miss an episode. For more resources, visit greattalentpodcast.com, where you can download this episode's free worksheet designed to help you apply today's insight to your business. And now, here's your host, Rob Levin.
Today, I'm joined by Daniel Todd, CEO of Influence Mobile and a serial entrepreneur. He's built one of the most recognized reward platforms in mobile gaming, and he leads a team across borders and has grown the company to be named one of the best places to work while landing on the Inc. 5000 list 3 years in a row. There's probably something, those two things must be connected. Daniel, welcome to the show, and let's dive right in.
Hey, Rob, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, thanks for hopping on. Daniel, you've scaled a distributed team across borders while earning a best places to work recognition. What are some of the core values and practices that contributed to this, especially in light of the fact that you are not only fully remote, but are across several borders?
I would say it helped what we had when we first built the company. I hired people that I already had existing relationships with, which laid a foundation of trust that would have been hard to build in a fully remote situation. We worked together for many years, and even though when we worked together, it was largely remote, there were plenty of times where we came together in real life. And I think that's an important element in a remote only work environment, is that there's a lot of benefits to being remote, but you can't fully replace the in-person connections. And so you just have to build those in at the right intervals for people. And so we had built those in. We built a strong relationships. We ended up acquiring a company who themselves had built strong relationships. And when you have those relationships as the core foundation, and I'm saying like early 20 employees, then as you add more people, they come into an ecosystem of trust that exists. So you want your foundation to be strong. That means if you're under 10 people or under 20 people, you're going to need to get those people together and build relationships and make sure that you spend time doing things together that are fun, not just work related. We did a lot of those at various times. And then, like I said, when you have this distributed work environment, you want to make sure that you have a good relationship with each leader, which then can cascade down to the people that report to them. And it takes a lot of focus to make sure you maintain those. But if you do that, you get all the benefits of having a remote work environment without the same kind of detriment of never being able to build personal relationships.
You had a good start because there was a team that you had, or a number of individuals at least, that you worked with before. And then it sounded like a very concentrated effort to make sure that those values were absorbed and internalized by people that you hired subsequently.
I would say as our company grew, the leadership team remained very tight. And the way we did it as we scaled was we tried to get everybody in the company together once a year. And so we went to Vegas many years in a row, and at least half of the benefit of going there was just having FaceTime with one another and just doing fun things together that weren't even work related. We went one time and we did dune buggies. We went and shot guns together, and we had meals together. And there's a trust and a camaraderie that can be built in only that way. And then you have to have the same sort of sustained level of interactions at a higher level with your leadership team. On top of that, one time a year, we'd bring the leadership team together one or two other times a year. And then again, that kind of laid the foundation so that they saw how important they were to me, the leadership team. and they were then able to mirror that down to their employees. There's been windows where we haven't gotten people together for over a year, but for the most part, it's just about keeping a cadence of some real life connections and having, especially again, if you don't have years of connections. At this point in time, my CTO, we've worked together at 3 different companies over a 30-year span. So we have a very deep relationship. My vice president, COO, has worked together with me at this company for 10 years. Those relationships are super foundational. So anybody in their orbit, they keep the people in their orbit very tightly connected. And I benefit from that as a CEO.
The other thing that I'm hearing, which you didn't say, but I'm reading between or listening between the lines, is you're very deliberate about your culture. That's what's been very, very clear. You didn't actually say the word deliberate, or you didn't say the word culture, but that's really what came out of everything that you said. In other words, you didn't just have the team and you guys had worked together before, and then you hire new people and absorb them and have them appreciate the culture. You took a lot of steps, including the offsites and things like that, in order to have and maintain the culture that you want.
Yeah, I would take it one step farther. We specifically hire people that value relationships. I'd say you're 100% right. Culture is as important to our business as the business metrics. The culture of the business, the people that you hire have to value relationships in a remote work environment, because then what you have is you have a built-in connection desire. You don't have to build companies the same way. Lots of people have built companies all kinds of different ways, but in a remote work environment, if you have a bunch of individual contributors to build social relationships with one another, I think that would be a harder dynamic to be successful in. Probably someone can do it, but for me, yeah, being very purposeful about the culture, about building relationships, about hiring people that value those relationships. What I used to tell people when I interviewed them is, if you want to go work at a place that pays you the absolute highest amount of money, this is not that place. We want to pay in like the 80th percentile. So we want you to be fairly compensated, but we're going to make this the best place for you to work based on the relationships, the connections you have with your coworkers, the transparency you have with the executive team in terms of what we're doing from a directional perspective. And we're going to work and value you as a member. So it becomes this self-reinforcing cycle, which is if you bring in people that value that from the beginning, they in turn want to build relationships with one another.
To that end, let's talk about hiring for a second. You said one of the things that you say to people when you're hiring, but how do you assess people other than their response to that question? What else do you do in the hiring process to ensure that you're hiring somebody that's going to be both productive as well as fit in well with the culture?
This is surprising to many people, but for the most part, there are some exceptions. I have been the first interview of nearly every employee that we've ever hired. And I have these very candid conversations with them. I ask them what's important to them, why are they leaving their current place, what are their aspirations, and I get a sense of how easy it is to have a conversation with them. There are some people, and again, I know this sounds harsh, but there are some people that within 3 minutes of talking with them, I'm like, you're not going to be able to make it here. And it doesn't mean we are far from having hired only extroverts. It's not really an extrovert trait we're looking for. It's a desire to connect with other people. So I first have an interview with people, and then I either have a good feeling about them or not. Then we put them through, usually they'll go to the manager and have a deep technical conversation about the aspects of their job that they need to understand. I don't even really try to pre-qualify them other than looking at their LinkedIn and their resumes. Then if they pass my interview and they pass their manager's interview, we'll typically have them interview with at least 2 other people who are good cultural bellwethers to see whether or not they get a good vibe from that person. And we generally always make sure it's one person from each gender. So we have a guy and a woman, different people at different times, speaking with every new employee just to make sure there's no weird vibes that anybody's picking up.
Wow, I've never seen that before. Really, really interesting.
This episode is brought to you by Work Better Now, your trusted partner for accessing high-performing talent from Latin America. Our clients say that partnering with Work Better Now has transformed their businesses by providing the proactive, reliable, and skilled professionals they need to thrive. For more resources to help your business grow, visit workbetternow.com/eguide. And if you're ready to build your dream team, head to workbetternow.com to schedule your consultation today. As a special thank you to Great Talent, Great Business listeners, we're offering $150 off your first 3 months. Just mention Great Talent during your consult.
Let's talk a little bit about performance evaluation. Tell us a little bit about how you go about evaluating people's performance, both frequency and a little bit of the nature of how it's done.
Sure. When we hire somebody, we try to be pretty clear about what is, before we even hire them and they start, we predefine what a success would look like for that role, right? If it's a developer, they're coming in and building software. If they're an account manager, so we have predetermined success metrics. We educate them when they start and we say, here's how we're going to measure your success. And then between their manager and regular HR check-ins, we're constantly monitoring that, I would say monthly and quarterly at the HR level, and making sure that they get feedback on whether or not they're hitting or missing their expectations. And those are, to the degree possible, they're typically tangible, definable metrics. When it's a little bit softer metrics, then we still try to be very clear and have them line down. What my general philosophy is, I want people to be able to tell me where they want to be a year from now. What do you want to be contributing? What do you want to be doing day to day? What do you think fair compensation is for those tasks? And then I like to back up from that kind of year vision to today and say, great, well, you're here today. You're making this much money today. Success towards that path will look like this over the next 90 days. And then just make sure that the managers and the HR team are doing that. Specifically, I want to highlight our HR process. So I used to meet with all of the employees when we were small, once a month or every 2 months. And so we hired our HR person primarily to do one-on-one interviews with every employee. A lot of times people hire HR people to do a bunch of paperwork. Our HR person was specifically hired to build relationships with people in a remote work environment, make sure they're feeling heard, management cycle is fulfilling their needs, and then making sure that there's a second set of eyes on their performance, and that is borne fruit on both relationally, so people trust the company more because they're getting consistent feedback, and because the manager has other people helping, you tend to get managers more engaged because they can't just ignore somebody for a while and hope that they're doing their job.
Yeah. Again, what I'm hearing is you're just very deliberate about the human side of the business, which is really everything, right? Or
Yeah.
just about everything. Daniel, I want to switch gears a little bit. You happen to be in a tech business. As AI transforms, or is currently and is going to certainly do it to a much larger extent, is transforming the way we work, how are you thinking about upskilling your team and to some extent future-proofing the business?
We've been trying to be very proactive. Last year, we brought in some consultants when none of us really knew what LLMs meant and we didn't know anything. Got a little bit of base knowledge. And then, really earlier this year, I have a good buddy of mine who just wrote a book called AI First. And I was telling him, I want to be AI first. How do I do this? And so we actually engaged his firm. And it started by identifying the AI influencers, because almost in any company, there's a few people who are just on their own, have raised their hands and paid attention to it.
Yeah.
So we started a group that we call the AI Forge. So like forging what the plan is. And then we have adopted best practices where we now track week over week AI adoption. We make sure that everybody understands the basic levels of here's how AI can help you in your day to day work. We try to provide a lot of transparency. So we're having weekly competitions for best prompt. Most of us are hearing terms we didn't even know, right? I didn't know the benefits or reasons for changing AI models 6 months ago. I didn't know what prompt engineering was, and most everybody else didn't. So we are investing into getting everybody at base level, and then we're highlighting huge successes. People are doing amazing things, not just work related. Like people are changing their gardening and remodeling their house. We're bringing success stories, and it's changing people's perspective. I had a conversation with a gentleman who's like, I just thought AI was another trend. And he's like, last week I used it and it took me about 2 hours to do what normally would have taken a week's worth of work. We just raise awareness of it. We start to see better AI adoption across the company, and more use cases. We still haven't had a major unlock in terms of integrating AI across our entire business from a product perspective. So the next big wave is I do use AI to do a level of analysis of data that I was never capable of doing on my own. Now, risky because it does make a lot of mistakes. You have to be careful and got to sound that alarm. But we're trying to make sure that people understand here's all the benefits, here's the risks. You should be using it. Let's see what kind of wins we can have. And our focus has been primarily on helping people just be more productive. We don't think that AI is going to completely replace people. We think people that are very good at using AI will replace people who are not using AI.
I agree. And we have somewhat similar approaches. Let's go back to your team a little bit. You have not only people working remotely, but you have offshore, and in your case, outside of the US and Canada. What's that experience been like? And what, if any, is the difference in your case near, I know you have people in Latin America, the people in Latin America versus the people in North America? And sorry for the long question, has anything changed in terms of how you manage and lead them?
I don't view my offshore employees that work through Work Better Now as any different than employees we hire directly. I treat them the same. We care about them the same way, and they feel that they're accepted that way. And for the most part, it's invisible to us. It's invisible to most employees because we already have people across a wide range of time zones, which is really the only major disconnect. And it allows us to hire highly skilled people at a price that's fair for them, but discounted for what we would be paying in the United States, which lets us direct more resources to certain areas that require a higher human touch. And so it's been nothing but a positive experience so far.
Terrific. I'm really happy to hear you doing the same thing that most of our clients, and of course what we're doing, which is it doesn't matter whether they're in Peru or whether they're in Texas, right? It's not with technology today. Daniel, thank you so much for this discussion. It's been really insightful. I actually got a few ideas myself that I think we're gonna use here at WBN. Where can people find out more about you and Influence Mobile?
The best place is on LinkedIn. You can check out my LinkedIn page, Daniel Todd, CEO of Influence Mobile, or you can learn more about Influence Mobile by searching for Influence Mobile on LinkedIn.
Terrific. Daniel, you being here, and thanks for sharing all these insights.
Thanks, Rob. Have a great day.
You too.
Thanks for listening. The Great Talent, Great Business podcast is brought to you by Work Better Now. Don't forget to review, subscribe, and download the worksheet for this episode at the link below. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on LinkedIn at Great Talent, Great Business, or visit greattalentpodcast.com.